Hello, this is Mad Cat, the angry egalitarian that discusses this and that. Sorry, I have a little bit of the hiccup, so it might become a little distracting. Today, we're going to discuss why does women against feminism exist? Mm. And I apologize for the hiccups I have. I don't been trying to get rid of. I might have to cancel this video. Let's just see how far we can get. So, if you're on Twitter, there is a hashtag that is fairly popular known as Women Against Feminism. Namely, this tag is for women who no longer identify as feminist. Women who no longer identify as feminists to have a place to come together and talk. Now, yes, men do come onto this channel, not channel, but hashtag, and talk to the women there. And yes, I'm guilty of it. I do it quite often. Almost every single day do I post something to them. And the reason I do is because I work with a little bit of everyone. I work with men's rights activists. I work with anti-feminists. I work with egalitarians. And yes, there are some feminists I work with. You know, I'm not going to not talk to someone because it's a female space. In fact, if you were to tell many of those who post within Women Against Feminism that it's a female-only space, they would probably bitch slap you. So, but at least once a week, someone's on there. At least once a week. Actually, once a day, in all honesty, or several times a day. But at the very least, one time a day, someone is on there saying, well, why does this hashtag exist? Or you people don't know what feminism is, or this hashtag shouldn't exist at all. I mean, I see it day in and day out. And sometimes I talk to these women, and some of them are actually rather innocent feminists who don't really realize the corruption of their own movement, of how bad their own movement is, that they've been sheltered. And when I start talking to them, they're like, oh no, I didn't realize that. Not all of them do I convince stop being feminists. I think only like one or two have ever done that before. But most of them are just like, well, I don't believe that, and I'm a feminist. Well, just the thing is that there is so much radical shit that happens in the feminist movement. And instead of feminists dealing with their own shit, they rather go around and shame everyone else for not being a feminist. And I've always said that if feminists tried to deal with the trash that is within their own movement, I'd have more respect for them. It's why I respect Christina Hoff Sommers, because she tries to deal with the trash in her own movement. And what does she get praise for this? Hell no. Other feminists attack her. All they have to do is just open their mind. Whatever happened to listen and believe? Oh, but she goes against the narrative, so we shouldn't listen to her at all. I think my hiccups are gone. All right, so what I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to let women's voices be heard, as read by a man's voice. We're going to look at a couple of people who make mention about why they don't think the Women Against Feminism hashtag should exist, or they're just simply making fun of it, and women responding to why they are no longer feminists. So let me start the screen share. Now, when I do this, I'm in no way encouraging anyone to harass these people. Do not harass these people. Let them live in their own ignorance. Don't tweet to them. Don't do anything with them. If they decide to post it again, go ahead and do so, but they've already done what they needed to do. Okay? We don't need to have any drama. But I am reporting on them because this is the public and I'm allowed to do so. But I do want to stress, I am not encouraging these individuals to receive any sort of harassment at all. Leave them alone. Because if you attack them, you're only playing into them. You're giving them exactly what they want. So, Erica, women against feminism. I'm embarrassed this hashtag exists. If you don't know what feminism, go back to school or read a book. You know, normally I don't criticize people for missing out a word here or there because I do that. I mean, I'm a writer. I'm a professional writer, and yet whenever I write up tweets, sometimes I miss a word or two. But this is just embarrassing to read this. No real punctuation, and she blatantly misses a word. The word is. I mean, if she used a comma, I could kind of understand that. You don't know what feminism, go back to school or read a book. But I'm not going to criticize her for that. But I think women against feminists know what feminism is far more than you know what it is. Let's continue. Emily, women against feminism must like getting paid less than men and want men to not have feelings. Oh, wait, they're just confused. So again, not wanting to understand it, they just simply, that was weird. They simply just want to bash them for being different. And Joanna Banana, kind of clever name. Women against feminism is a hashtag? And Trixie Longboots. You know, that would be a really great porn name. I'm just saying. Maybe it is. I don't know. You know, there's a name for women against feminism. It's Uncle Tom. Wow. Because usually Uncle Tom is regarded as what black people call other black people who feel that they're selling out. And you're culturally appropriating that to attack other women. I'll just leave that out there in the open. So I am using the men's rights survey, and I have talked about this section in the past, and I decided to highlight a couple of things. There's quite a bit to read through on this. This is women who are not feminists, and basically, did you ever identify as feminists? 158 said yes. If so, why did you stop identifying with feminism? So we're going to read a couple of these. Unfortunately, I can't make this too much bigger on my screen. Not really. So we'll just kind of have to deal with it. So, and I color coded these. These actually have no meaning as far as color. I just had like a selection of colors to choose from. So I chose the first one, the second one, the third one. So you'll start sort of seeing a pattern, but the colors don't mean anything to the posts themselves. So why do women stop identifying with feminism? Plus the bigger question, why does women against feminism exist? Because I saw the hypocrisy within the movement. And whenever I tried to bring it up, I was shamed or called a man for it. It wasn't just really toxic. It wasn't just a really toxic thing. And when accidentally found an anti-social justice warrior blog and started reading up, by started, I mean I got to page 60 something and realized that Western feminism is full of crap. I think I kind of butchered that up a little bit. Sorry for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue reading. Next one. I considered it for a time, but then decided against it quickly after being told my sex meant I had to be a feminist, that I had no choice in the matter. There's nothing I hate more than being told that I don't have a choice, especially about defining who I am. Feminism is all about choice, but you have to be a feminist. That seems like a pretty logical reason. And if there are any anti-feminists watching this, I want you to pay careful attention to this. Ooh, shoot. I didn't actually click on the video, so I can't see if anyone's actually chatting or not. Okay, no one's chatting right now. So, but if you are seeing this video, go ahead and put a comment in the chat or leave a comment down below. Let me position this. Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead. But any feminists that are watching this, you might be saying, well, I'm not like that. I'm not like that. Realize that a lot of people in your movement are. You want to know why women are against feminism? Pay careful attention to this. This is some really good stuff here. This will answer your question, your berating questions of why women against feminism exists. So I'm not reading all of these. I feel like the movement was getting out of hand, and it wouldn't be possible for me to speak out against it, especially on the internet, without getting terrible backlash. Therefore, I do not wish to identify with the movement anymore. I identified as a feminist in grade school because I was told that everyone believing in equality was one. So I bought into the common talking points like pay gap, representation in organization, and sexualization. When I started working, I realized that women do not get paid less than their male counterparts. When I went to university, I realized that women had more scholarships and support programs than men, despite being the demographic majority. Women do still have issues, but I don't want to support a movement that acts like that there are more problems than there actually are. Tiberius Kirk, comment. He put it in chat, so thank you for that. I enjoy reading those. He only said the word comment. He didn't actually say anything else. That's kind of funny. All right, so yeah, feminists conflate their own movement, conflate their own problems, and don't actually look at the facts of anything. They just want to pretend that things are really bad. I like teal. It's my favorite color, or one of them, rather. I did in high school because I thought it was about equality. When I got to college, I talked about men's issues is when I saw different. On top of that, I was told that because my mother was an emotional abuser, I was told to be quiet about it because it's dads they want to show are abusers. So it doesn't fit their narrative, so they felt that they couldn't express themselves within the feminist movement. Okay, so hold on, let me load this back up. Okay, there we go. I stopped identifying. Whoopsie, hold on 1 second. There we go. Sorry for that. I stopped identifying with feminism, first of all, because I despised how they generalize all men as ugly, emotionless, misogynistic rapists. As having a few male friends myself, I knew this could never be true. I recognized that they themselves felt underrepresented and felt as though they were to speak up against feminism in any way because they felt it was oppressing them. If they were to speak up against feminism in any ways because they felt it was oppressing them, that they would be attacked and ridiculed to no end. And although this was a rational human being, I could see that there was obviously something inherently problematic about a movement that liked to focus so heavily on censorship of anyone who opposes it. And after following a number of anti-fem blogs on Tumblr, I started to see the damages of third-wave feminism rearing its ugly head even more. Not just to men, but to women too. Third wave feminism has made women entitled, not empowered. It's made them ungrateful, not independent. And it's got a majority of youth girls adhering to the notion that men are worthless, but should at the same time worship women. Doesn't really sound like equality to me. And I've seen third wave feminism lead to men having less custody rights, male rape ridiculed, male abuse ridiculed, male body image ridiculed, and the list goes on and on. I know this doesn't apply to every teeny bopper third wave feminist, but for the majority, it does, and it fucking sucks. I do not want to grow into being an adult in a society dominated by sexist third wave feminists. I mean, it's hard to get any clearer than that. Tiberius Kirk comments, colleges are no longer places of free speech. It's comparable to McCarthyism. Very true indeed. If you even try to have any sort of opinion at all, you're immediately labeled a misogynist and people ignore you. To which then you have to defend that you're not a misogynist and then must cater to what women say in order to not be a misogynist. It's basically communism all over again. You know, being accused of communism completely invalidates any point you have. And you must therefore spend the rest of your life proving you're not a communist. So very good point, Tiberius. Great name, by the way. I'm a huge fan of Star Trek, or I was until J.J. Abrams got a hold of it. Okay, so I started to see that the movement was toxic, and it was more about bringing men down than bringing women up. Feminists advocate censoring movies and video games if they sexualize women or don't have sufficient amount of strong female characters. They disagree with the issues of men and claim to be persecuted, despite statistics that show that men are more likely to be victims of violent crime. It's also a movement that thrives off of a perpetuating lies, like the 78 cent on the dollar wage gap myth. It's not needed in the Western world. You're going to start noticing a pattern to this, feminists, the things that they're saying. It's a lot of the same things. I read that past one on a previous video. I used to believe that feminists are correct in some statistics they presented. 1 out of 5 women are raped. And that cis men really are the enemy. But I realized that what I was practicing was not equality and was in fact misandry. Although I don't often use this metaphor because I quite like fire, you can't fight fire with more fire, and feminists are trying to do just that. It's very true. You know, you're too busy attacking other people for not doing what you want them to do and not actually trying to help anyone. Well, that's a very valid point. I mean, look at my previous videos and you can see all the bad that feminism has done in the name of feminism. Okay, so this is a long one. That's what she said. I saw how petty the movement had become. I don't think the movement is about equality or empowerment anymore. It's hyper-focused on garbage like manspreading, abortion rights that are already in existence, and hypocritical outrage over sexualization of women in certain media while simultaneously encouraging women to be as sexual as possible in others. As someone with brothers she loves, I resent the idea of characterizing all men as rapists until taught otherwise. As someone involved in the legal field, I resent the idea that female victims should be believed without question, without investigation, without due process. None of this is about empowerment or equality. None of this is about true justice. I also resent the idea that I have to agree with feminists in order to keep my rights or be a good woman. It's just as oppressive as things were in the 1800s to expect all of women. No one should be able to control the thoughts of another, morally or otherwise. I refuse to allow myself to become a victim in order to further a broken cause. Feminism, may still be needed in third world countries where women are oppressed violently and gruesomely. But I don't think third wave feminism is actively doing anything about that. They're not. They'd rather focus on idiotic image, imagine slight in first world areas. And in any case, egalitarianism would have the same effect abroad as old school feminism, anyways. To call it feminism would invite the stupidity of the movement into an area that cannot afford to be bogged down with it. Women should have the exact same rights as men, not more, not less. Powerful words. And this is a woman saying this. This is a woman who wrote this. And yes, women should have the same equal rights as men, not more, not less. But guess what? Women have more rights than men. It's men that need equal rights to women. Dope. Okay, so another long one. I became very hateful and negative when I joined the movement. The feminist echo chamber on the social media site called Tumblr, along with the ideologies that are spread there, made me fearful because the radicals made it seem like every guy was out to get me. Plus, I saw how some self-proclaimed feminists treated other people, especially how bad they treated women who didn't identify with the movement. After I got out of that echo chamber, I realized that there were a lot of radical points some feminists make are really sexist, saying that women can't do certain jobs unless they have a leg up, saying all men are inherently bad. When I identified with feminism, I kept myself down and I realized I had a huge victim complex. I've kept telling myself that I was going to get discriminated against no matter what I did, and I painted myself as a victim. So I got out of the movement and stopped identifying with it, and I've been happier ever since. Now, my sister has gotten into a whole rad fem movement, and I got a glimpse of what I was probably like when I was in the movement, and I really didn't like what I saw. Now my sister is very hateful of men and white people, and it's probably what outsiders saw of me when I was a rad femme. I'm just embarrassed and ashamed that I ever identified with feminism. So Tiberius Kirk quickly states, they would point to her as an example of internalized misogyny. She lacks agency and a brain, according to them. And I don't know if he was referring to a previous one I read or this one I just read, but I mean, there you go. I mean, she felt that being within the feminist movement and drinking the Kool-Aid of the feminists made her very hateful, and she didn't see that until she got out of it. And then now looking at her sister who's in the movement. I've met a number of former feminists who are now anti-feminists who say they are much happier being out of the movement because the movement doesn't teach women how to be strong. It teaches them how to be perpetual victims, to always feel like the world is out to get you, that men are bad and you should always be afraid, which in many ways that makes feminism a cult. And instead of a feminist saying, well, you know what? I've never experienced that, but if you had, we need to do something about it. Instead, she will shame this kind of woman for even saying that anything bad happened to her as a feminist, which is another indication that feminism is a cult. If someone speaks bad about your movement, then they have to be an enemy and you have to silence them. And you'll do that by ridiculing them. I can't speak today. All right, so let's move on. Skip. These are all really good. Don't get me wrong. I only picked a few out because, we have limited time. I stopped identifying with feminism because I need a movement that includes everyone's problems, not only women's. Also, I strongly disagree with the opinion that men cause all problems and that men don't have problems. Men issues are often either ignored or faced with hostility. I think that men and women have different issues, but we need to solve both. Thus, they need to work together. I strongly agree with that. I do think that there are some issues that women face today that do need to be addressed, and I'm willing to address them, but not in the process of completely ignoring men. And I hear a lot of feminists speak, we care about men's issues too. What? What do you care about? Name an issue that you fight for as a feminist. Oh, well, you see, we do that one issue that all the men are really complaining about. So we really do help them. Name it. Name what you do. They can't. And if they do, it's like, well, we fight so men don't have to be stuck in a traditional gender role. He can be whatever he wants, such as, well, supporting women. Well, that really sounds like it's just for women and not for men. And that's probably the most that I get out of feminists claiming that they'll support men's rights. They really don't. Not at all. Hell, it'd be so easy to name one. They didn't talk about any men's issue, and if anyone tried to bring it up, they would bitch and whine. This is a little very, very, very long, and it was kind of numbered a little weird, so just kind of forgive that a little bit. But there's some really good stuff in here. When I wrote my dissertation, I had to pick an epistemology, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, for which my research could be based. I felt that any epistemology starts with a premise, the patriarchy theory, the idea that women are always oppressed in every situation, men are the oppressors, men never oppress in society. So that was all part of point one. Part two, I disagree with the epistemology start with an inherent biased hypothesis and uses data to support the hypothesis even if the data shows otherwise. 3, I disagree with any epistemology where researchers do not feel that they need to reform their hypothesis if their data shows to be incorrect or null or alternative hypothesis to be true. Instead, they attempt to explain it away with theories such as internalized misogyny, patriarchy backfiring, or a rare occurrence, false rape accusations. That's very true. I mean, look at Anita Sarkeesian. She started with a conclusion and found evidence for that conclusion to create a hypothesis to demonstrate that her point was right. A lot of feminist research is like this. If you actually read through it, you can see that they were biased at the very beginning of it. And you're not supposed to be with the study. With the study, you start with evidence. You look at the evidence and you form a hypothesis on that. Once you form your hypothesis, you then test that hypothesis against other pieces of evidence. You test it. You try to break that hypothesis, because if you can break it, that means that your hypothesis is weak. You have to disprove your hypothesis. And then once your hypothesis can withstand any attack you give it, you give it to a peer review, and they try to do the same exact thing. Only then, after going through an entire peer review, can you have a conclusion. Feminist study is not based on that. It's based on starting with the conclusion and working backwards. Number 4, they misuse statistics. Their research tends to rely on percentages of survey. This is fine, except they attempt to generalize the survey to the entire population. There are several reasons this should not be done. The most basic one is that people who are sexually assaulted are going to be the ones who want to participate in a survey. I mean, you have to really look at a lot of things. You have to look at how they got their information. Where did they get their sample size? And you can easily see how their bias has affected their method of collecting data, how they only ask certain questions, or how they interpret the data anyways, even though it doesn't show what it does. And, Tiberius is bringing up Christina Hoff Sommers. I have a lot of love for Christina Hoff Sommers. It would be a great honor to shake that woman's hand, because one of the things that she did in reference to a survey is in the 80s, when the 1 in 5 rape statistic came out by Mary Koss. Oh, I hate that woman. It was Christina Hoff Sommers who was on the front line questioning every element of that test. And she even demonstrated that the information that was collected for it was poorly done. The conclusions were poorly conceived. She could prove that this entire survey was complete crap. And she is an identified feminist. And she is criticized for it, because it goes against the feminist narrative that feminists are victims. So yeah, great bringing up Christina Hoff Sommers. I do have a lot of love for that woman. Okay, so number 5, feminist research has remained stagnant for the last 30 years. They're still talking about hyped up numbers of sexually and domestically abused women, and offering no solution for the victims, real or not. Kind of already touched on that. Feminist solution to problem: fix nothing. Teach all men to rape. She meant teach men not to rape. Sometimes you miss a word, especially when you're typing a long rant, so it happens. I mean, I know I criticized the woman for is, but that was bad of me to do. I admit it. Demonizes all men and ignores the fact that rapists don't care about the law, personal boundaries, and they know that rape is wrong. Also, for the fact that 80% of men who are rapists have themselves been raped by women. So maybe if we're going to teach men not to rape, we should teach women not to rape little boys. That might solve the problem. Women are causing women to be raped. Think about that, feminists. Tiberius updates me about Christina Hoff Sommers. She's got ostracized in academia. She does still give talks in academics, but I do believe that is correct. She did get ostracized out of academia, which is a shame, because she is a great speaker. She really has good things to say. Here, let me resize my window so I can better see the chat. Anyone else who's watching right now, if you want to say anything in chat, feel free to do so, and I will try to read it. Number 7, they make it seem as if research into understanding why rapists rape and the ways that may prevent them from raping is humanizing rapists and attempt to make society have sympathy for them. I mean, why try to solve the problem with rapists? It's just men, right? All men are bad. So if we try to understand what makes rapists rape and maybe have a way to solve the problem, that goes against all men are rapists. The 80% stat, Tiberius is asking me this 80% stat. It is a study that I have seen somewhere. I can't recall it at the moment, but I know I have seen it. You might want to check with A Voice for Men. They do have wiki there. I believe you can find that information there. If not, contact me on Twitter, and I'll see if I can get that information for you. Good to see you again, Nemesis Diablo and Sado Christ. Okay, so number 8. Did I do 7? Yeah. Female rapists in feminist literature are painted as victims of sexual abuse and unwitting participants. Male rapists are only using their sexual abuse as an excuse. Again, this fits with patriarchy theory, which means that their research will be biased. So female rapists are always innocent. And if it's a man and a woman raping together, then it's the man abusing the woman, and it's never the woman who's responsible for her actions. There's actually a Canadian court case that is actually based on that specifically, that a woman actually basically got away with raping and killing her sister with her husband and raping a number of other children, and at first got a lighter sentence than her husband did, and did until a videotape proved that she actually actively participated in the rapes. So she did get a longer jail sentencing, but feminist pressure allowed her to be freed from jail. And I believe that she got married again and had children and is living in some Caribbean island. And I wish I was making this shit up. You can go find this on the internet. 10. Number 9. They spread lies that, like, all men are potential rapists and therefore all women should be leery of every man they date or see on the streets. 10. Number 9 was the reason why I lived in fear after being raped until I received therapy from a non-feminist. 11. Feminists completely dismiss female rapists in therapy. It is seen as being not as bad as being raped by a man. 12 is broken up into 2 parts. When I was in college, a group of feminists, they were a feminist group on campus, thought it was okay to sexually demean me in the way they imagined my male friends doing, and I should feel it was okay because they were women. Oh, I forget who it was. I think it was Rachel Edwards or maybe Hannah Wallen that was talking about some of the fucked up shit that women do when it's just the girls. And, you know, I think it was Heat Proof Lizard on Twitter was also saying the same thing, that women love to demean men in horrific, horrible ways. That when it's just the girls, that's when we really see what a woman is like. And it's just truly horrific. Nemesis Diablo. Feminists are watering down what rape means to the point where it is hard to take it for a bad thing. That is my thoughts on it. That is a very good point right there, Nemesis. That when you call everything rape, it starts to mean that nothing is rape. Rape should be reserved for one of the most heinous acts in existence. The only thing worse than that is murder. It should only be reserved for that, and it should not be used lightly. And yet, feminists will use it for almost everything. A man spreading his legs on a train car is raping women. Was it social? I know I'm not getting that spelling correct. In what respect, Sedochrist? I don't understand your question. What's it referring to? Okay. A second part of 12. The same women told me that the only reason I think I like men is because I was conditioned to do so, and I just haven't been with the right woman. This woman right here that we're reading was told that the reason why she likes men is because she was conditioned to do so. Nothing about any biological instincts she has. She can completely ignore those. She just needs to find the right woman to make her a lesbian. Oh, I don't know the actual name of the woman offhand. I know that it happened. I'm sure I could find an article about it, but get with me later and I'll see if I can confirm that with you on what her actual name was. But yeah, she's just like a truly horrible woman, and that the feminists practically praised her for what she did. The same woman above were telling me that I was objecting myself because I wanted to look feminine. feminists are telling a woman this stuff. 14, I do not like the way the current movement paints women as victims. 15, I do not like the way current movement acts only the as if the only way a woman can think for herself is through feminism. That's a very common one, actually. That you can't make any decisions unless feminism does it for you. And that if you choose not to be a feminist, you're making the wrong decision. That you're just uneducated, you're uninformed. Nemesis is telling me that he saw an Indian woman talking about how much she is raped every day just by what her mom and brother and dad did and said. Oh, I remember that video. Oh, God, that's such a horrible video. She was saying that, the way her family talked, just the way they talked, they didn't even say anything all bad. And she's like, I feel so raped by my family. I'm raped every single day. You stupid cunt. You don't ever get to say that word again. You have lost your privilege of saying the word rape because you don't know what it means and you're calling everything rape. You're disrespecting any woman who ever actually got raped. And I'm sorry to throw that out there, and I know that I must be some horrible misogynist for doing it, but you cannot throw around the word rape for every action every other person does that you happen to disagree with. That's not rape. That pissed me off when I saw that. Tiberius, apparently all men are conditioned to find hot, sexy, and scantily clad women attractive. Brainwashing capitalist patriarchy, uneducated conditioned men. Yeah, I find them attractive. But that's just the patriarchy talking, so what do I know? 15, I do not like the way the current movement acts. Oh, I already read that. 16, I do not like the way the current movement uses rape survivors, women in third world countries, male victims, and any marginalized group as a reason they need feminism. I could go on longer, but I will not. If this woman is seeing this today or sees this in the near future, contact me. I think I might know who you actually are because I've kind of talked to a lot of females, but reach out to me because I would like to hear more of your thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Current feminism, aka third wave feminism, breeds a mob mentality that only women can be victims to rape or violence, while under the same breath claiming feminism is equality for both men and women. It's not. Feminists distort facts to garner attention, such as rape culture or the wage gap. This instills fear among young women that men are bad who only want to hurt or rape. As a woman who once supported feminism, I can say without a doubt that the movement uses indoctrination and resembles strongly of a cult. Carla Homolka. I think that actually is the name. Carla Homolka. That sounds very, very familiar. That she was the woman in Canada that originally claimed domestic violence as the reason why she allowed her sister to be killed and raped by her husband, and later found out that she was an active participant of it. So, and I've said it before, feminism is a cult. It does use indoctrination. And this is a woman who's saying it, who used to be a feminist and is now looking from the outside in and seeing all the bad she's done and all the bad that feminists actively do. And it's not past feminism they're complaining about, it's modern. Now, I have issues with past waves of feminism, but there is some good that has been done in those movements. I cannot for the life of me describe any positive thing that third wave feminism has done. Okay, so before I read the next part, some things in chat. Diablo is saying that he agrees with me. Thank you for that. Say to Chris, I think the serial rapist woman might have been. Oh, wait, he already told me that. Sorry for that. Nemesis. That made me think of the guy raped a girl in college when she lost her friends over it. She claimed that he raped her and got him kicked out of college. Yeah, that also happens a lot. I mean, there was one instance where this girl was in a three-way with another girl and a guy, and she later claimed that she was raped by the guy, even though the other girl said that she knowingly participated in the three-way. But the school didn't care what this woman's testimony was, only that it was a 50.01% chance that this was a rape, so the guy got kicked out of school. And I think he's actually suing the school as well. And that's something we do often see, is that women who regret having sex then say that it was rape. Even if they say yes to having sex, a man is still supposed to know that she didn't want to have sex. So fucking retarded. Oh, I see what he's saying. Okay, so that makes me think of a guy raped by a girl in college, and when she lost her friends over it, she claimed that he raped her and got him kicked out of college. Okay, now I understand what you're saying. I think I saw something similar to that very recently, where a girl raped a guy who was passed out drunk, and then later claimed that she was raped by him. I just thought of that. I don't know if it's the same story, but it was just something that I read very recently. It's just like, you raped him and then turn around and say that he raped you? She even called another guy to have sex after she raped that guy. Yeah, yeah, she went home and invited a guy over and had sex. This is feminism. I mean, tell me that I don't understand what the definition is, fine, but look at the actions. That a woman can claim that she was raped after raping a guy and then going around and having sex right after that. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on. We're almost done with this list. I thank the people in the chat room. I love reading your stuff. I love reading the thoughts and comments you have. Even if I don't agree with it, I love reading it. Once I realized that feminists rarely actually work towards the goals they proclaim, I did not like how feminism was supposed to speak for me, and yet nothing they said represented who I was. Despite what feminism has told me, I do not feel oppressed by men. Their goals of feminism have always been unclear to me, and many feminists disagree on actual definitions of feminism. Almost every single one seems to have a different definition of what it is. Although, to be fair, so does Gamergate. So, and I do support Gamergate, but a lot of people seem to have a different definition of what Gamergate is. So, but the difference between feminism and Gamergate is a leaderless movement, and feminism does have its clear leaders, the radical feminists. Some say it's furthering just women. Some say it's equality between a man and a woman. Okay, the transphobia I experienced, as well as the denial of feminism's poor activism and refusal to take responsibility for it. I'm not sure what it means by poor activism. I don't know if it's like the activism of the poor or something else. Rampant misinformation and dogmatism, I cannot read today, that singled out the same woman they were saying they defended. Ideological intolerance for other schools of thoughts on equality, and outright hostility and disrespect towards humanist perspectives. The straw on the camel's back was when they began targeting trans men, veiled their transphobia with misandry. Trans issues is a very complex one. It's not so cut and dry, so easy, and it should be taken very seriously. Feminism does try to say that they are for trans issues. And in fact, I've seen more in the men's rights movement for trans issues than I've seen in feminism. But they will easily attack. There's a report that I read. Oh, I don't know who told this to me. I think it might have been in Feminism 2015. She was saying that there was a trans woman, basically a man becoming a woman, who got accepted into an all-girls college, which is fine. I mean, that's respecting trans issues, but then tried to run for student council, I think for president of the student council, and was told that they did not want a straight man on the student council for a woman's college. So they discriminated against her, or actually, I think it might have been a trans man, a woman into a man. Yeah, it was. It was. I apologize for that. It was a woman turning into a man that got accepted to an all-girls school, but was then told that they didn't want him to be on the student council, even though he was biologically a woman, because they didn't want a straight man on the student council. So they'll allow a trans person to attend their school, but not to partake in any student-related activities. Ooh, this is interesting. Nemesis Diablo. Feminists are trying to get stores to change mannequins because they don't look like the women in feminism. Well, there was that whole issue with Facebook, how feminists felt it was a victory because they changed the position of the male and female logo. And it was like, you can't really see any distinctive differences between the two, except one has long hair and the other doesn't. How do you know that long-haired person wasn't a male and the other one wasn't like a female with really short hair? I mean, if we use that logic, then it seems like they were always for women and now they put women into the back. It's just stupid fights. You get proud of the stupidest things. Oh, they've now switched Facebook to be more friendly to women. You don't know that. Men can have long hair and women can have short hair. And implying that that's a woman is putting women into gender roles. Ooh, you don't like it when I use your own logic against you, do you? Okay, we're almost done here. When I realized that all that I was being told was that men were always going to hold me back, and yet men were the ones telling me most that I could do more than other women were telling me I could do. We always hear about this. Oh, well, I was told that I couldn't do it as a child and I never did it. I hate that, men told me I was bossy or I couldn't do something. I got fucking told that I could never be a writer. That my own parent was telling me that I was a horrible person, that I could never be a writer. And guess what? I'm a writer. I have a published book on Amazon. Actually, I have 3 published books on Amazon. Not to gloat. Okay, to gloat just a little bit. But it really does seem like it's feminists who are telling women that they can't be anything more than they are, to always be victims. And it's men who are telling women, you can be anything you want to be. You don't have to be a victim. You could be something truly great. Oh, I love this. Tiberius Kirk, Facebook icons are so much more important than inequalities faced by men. This was a sarcastic remark he made, but I still love it. Okay, The growing number of transphobic, racist, and sexist feminists from the modern day, as well as the increased focus on non-issues, example, men sitting on subways, led me to no longer identify with the movement. I mean, really, men spreading their legs. It's actually biologically sound why men have to spread their legs. It has nothing to do with their fucking testicles. I mean, yes, I don't really like closing my legs and smashing my balls up. And it doesn't matter if you have like a huge ass cock or a tiny itty bitty cock, you're still going to squish your testicles. But even beyond that, I'm still willing to do it if, people need space. My hips naturally go out. I'm spreading my legs right now. Women, feminists, do you feel oppressed by me spreading my legs in my own home? I'm completely by myself in my own house. Does this oppress you? I mean, hell, there's now a handbag that has a giant vagina on the front of it as protest to men spreading their legs on subway. I don't know how one has to do with the other, but that's what feminists are doing. Nemesis Diablo. Still love that name. But to me, this is what feminism see as a big problem that needs to be fixed, but male suicide is not a big problem. I was watching something, I think yesterday, that talked on the male suicide rate and how feminists are like, but this is still a feminist issue, even though we're not, and it's like you're not doing anything about it. No one is talking about the male suicide rate. And in the next video, I'm actually going to talk about not necessarily the suicide rate, but how we put so much emphasis on female problems by ignoring men completely. Another one. I think this might be no, there's one on the very bottom. Too many attacks on men and just generally a very negative view of men. Typically, a lot of popular feminist rhetoric is the classic sexism towards women, but switched gender. Men are dumb. Men are only good for sex. Men can't hit a woman. Men can't take a hit. Also, I have routinely been told that I am disgrace to women because I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm in college studying a very male-dominated field, doing extremely well in it. Good for you. Have never implied that all women need to be stay-at-home moms and have only talked in reference to myself and my wants, but was told off and insulted for that. In addition, I'm fairly conservative, pro-life, belief that human life begins at conception and human life should be respected and cared for. And I'm insulted, called stupid, treated poorly for that. In fact, although I love debating and hearing other people's thoughts of issues, I'm too scared to talk to people about any issues I'm more conservative on because of this, and I think everyone deserves compassion, and I don't see the viewpoint expressed in much of the modern feminist belief. If you agree with women in any way as a woman, you're attacked. Feminists attack non-feminist women. I mean, if you feminists out there don't believe this is happening, look at the Women Against Feminism hashtag. What I did at the very beginning, I showed you evidence of women attacking other women. This is the kind of shit that goes on. I don't agree with everything this woman says, but I support her right to feel it, to think it. She wants to be a stay-at-home mom. Good for her. But you know what? She's in college right now. It's not like that's her next stop. Well, once I'm done with college and I'm going to get pregnant and stay at home, it sounds like she still wants to have a career, but eventually become a stay-at-home mom. But even if she decided not to go to college and that she just wanted to raise a child, there should be nothing wrong with that. Now, I know that there are some feminists that do support stay-at-home moms, and that's great. But for the most part, a lot of feminists feel like it is a betrayal for a woman to knowingly choose to be a stay-at-home mom. Tiberius Kirk, men only think with their dicks. How sexist is that statement? It resembles 19th century claims that women were ruled by the reproductive organs. Well, actually, sorry, LaFemme. I've done 2 videos today, so you're even more late than that. Just kidding. Actually, I did do 2 videos, but well, look at Lacey's Green recent video on Magic Mike. She's talking about how, she gets creamy in her shorts, that it's okay for the female gaze on men. She's thinking entirely with her clit. And it's okay because she's a woman. Ooh, my favorite color again, teal, or one of them. I realized the people I was agreeing with were making unfounded accusations and that I had been agreeing because it was framed in a humorous way. They got me to laugh at people for a persona they projected onto those people. I also learned that certain stats were wrong and how they were wrong and why they were wrong. I was disgusted by the dishonesty and ashamed for having taken part in the mocking and belittling behavior that so many feminists seem to use against so-called misogynists. Yeah, I stay silent for that because that's a very good point. I mean, yeah, if you only listen to feminist rhetoric and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, all men are bad, then you're going to believe all men are bad. The moment you step outside of that and realize that there are a lot of great men out there, you begin to see that feminists are really toxic. Sadochrist. Feminists usually say that it helps men by breaking down gender norms because apparently they give men permission to have emotions, and men crying is supposed to help prevent male suicide. Yeah, I think that was in the video I saw too. That if we, oh no, oh, I know what that was. That was the Sargon talking to the male feminist. The male feminist was talking about that if men were allowed to express their emotions, that would stop male suicide. Which is complete bullshit, by the way. I mean, that's not the only thing that's causing men to commit suicide. Not in the slightest. I'm sure there are some men out there who feel that they can't fully express themselves in public. And that is true. Men are not really allowed or encouraged to do so. But more often than not, it's because men are lonely because they can't really talk to anyone about their problems, that no one wants to listen to what they have to say. And more often than not, it's feminists that are putting men into this category. I mean, have you seen the picture of girls drinking out of the male tears mug? I mean, if feminists were really all about breaking men out of traditional gender roles, they wouldn't be the ones drinking out of male tears cups as their way of saying your problems don't matter. Well, joke's on you. Male tears is slang for semen. So when you're drinking male tears, you're drinking semen. Old joke. Sarah LaFemme, Sadochrist, I'll believe that's true when they stop telling me to ban up. Nemesis Diablo, one thing I never heard anything bad about Valerie Solanas and the book she did, Scum, from a Feminist. Scum Manifesto, a book that basically says that the only way to improve society for women is to kill 90% of the men. And this is actually taught in gender studies class. And this is a woman who tried to kill Andy Warhol. She failed, but she tried. The incidents with Erin Pizzi, her family, and her dog being shot. Don't worry, the dog survived, but still, it got shot. Feminists shutting down, not just protesting MRA conferences. The unwillingness to own responsibility and encourage other women to take personal accountability. Bad numbers, statistics, fear-mongering, and lying. A lot of respect to Erin Pizzi for what she tried to do. And she got chased out of her own country because she dared to say that domestic violence was reciprocal and women were just as likely to commit domestic violence as men. She has to be an enemy of the feminist movement, even though she opened up the first female abuse shelter. So because one day I brought up issues that men face and I was told to kill myself, told that I had internalized misogyny, told that men are all monsters and should die. Because one day I saw my brother told to kill himself by feminism because he is a straight, white, and cis. Because I realized that feminism is a movement tainted with hypocrisy, bullshit, and women who claimed oppression isn't a competition. When real oppressed women in Eastern countries are brought up in the conversation. Because I realized that feminism isn't about equality, it's about getting revenge. I got the impression that the radicals and other bad feminists have way too much influence in the movement. That is very true. I mean, feminists don't deal with their own bad elements. They stick their head in the dirt and pretend they don't exist and spend their time trying to shame people for not being feminists, for being an MRA, for being an egalitarian, for being an anti-feminist. They will spend their time shaming them for not doing it, but then don't ever look at their own movement for the bad crap it does. I digress. I also experienced that it's not about true equality anymore and about female supremacy instead. After I saw how often feminism screw over men or simply attack a woman for not identifying as a feminist, I abandoned the label entirely. I feel that modern feminism is just whining about trivial stuff like dress codes and calling such stuff and other things oppressive, which is very insulting to women who actually lack rights and actually get treated like second-class citizens. Furthermore, I also witnessed feminists hijacking issues, which have nothing to do with misogyny and making it about them instead. Like claiming homophobia against gay men is simply an extension of misogyny. There's other stuff, but I don't want to go overboard. All in all, I feel the movement has become corrupted by privileged, spoiled, egotistical brats. The only thing I'd change about that is to change brats to cunts. Are there any studies where this stuff is doing to the self-worth and confidence of boys and young men? Actually, I think there is. There is, I think in Tennessee, a school that has just men, just boys in a classroom. And they are finding that the boys are a lot more productive because they're gearing the education system specifically to these boys in this classroom. And they're finding that boys are getting a lot higher scores than the national average, and they're just a lot more productive. And there's actually strong indication that classrooms should be segregated between boys and girls. And on the one hand, that sounds really bad. But on another hand, boys and girls learn very differently. And yet the education system is geared specifically to men. And yet boys are more likely to commit suicide than girls. Boys are more likely to be told that that they're ADD and need to be on medication, and more likely to get expelled, suspended, and drop out from school. And yet this one classroom in Tennessee, and I'm not sure if those facts are exactly correct, but is proving that if you put men in the right environment, they can do amazingly well. Chris, men cope with emotions in different ways, and most likely anyway, so train men to deal with emotions like women do isn't going to be helpful. I agree. Training men to be women is not going to help men. It's only going to make problems a lot worse than men. We need to allow men to be men. Let me go ahead and do more of this. Whoops. Because feminism is taken over by radicals who preach misandry, victimize, belittle women, only care about rape, domestic violence, male victims if they can use them for their benefit. That's true. You know, the only time that feminists seem to really care about any of these things of men is when it benefits women in some way. I actually saw, oh my God, I wish I could find this, but I saw an article that stated that male rape is still a feminist issue because in that instance, a man is being treated like a woman. So it still is a feminist issue. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You're basically saying that a male victim doesn't matter and that only he still represents females. The same things are said about gays. That gays are male gays, not male gays, but homosexual males is a feminist problem because they're basically effeminate like women. That's just awful that that happens. The movement is so filled with cowardly moderates who just bleat those aren't real feminists or not all feminists are like that and are more concerned with whining to people criticizing feminists than calling out the radicals poisoning their movement. This is saying word for word exactly what I feel. This woman, if you're out there, if you ever see this video, get in contact with me. I love talking to intelligent people. But yes, exactly that. More concerned about what outsiders are saying about their movement than what their movement is actually doing. A little bit of a conversation going on. Hopefully, I haven't missed too many parts about it. Don't be silly, Sadochrist. People don't want to hear something like that that is more than likely truthful. That was Sarah LaFemme. Sadochrist. Well, Kirk, the problem is that all studies on gender and sociology come from a feminist perspective. And so, no, there wouldn't be any studies that don't start with a conclusion. Actually, that's not true, Sadochrist. There are a few studies out there that are showing that women are just as bad as men. God, there was something recently that Australia released a study that showed that women were just as bad as men, and it was a news article that came out a few days ago, but I don't remember where I saw it. But you could find that almost anywhere out there. There are a lot of studies that do show that women are just as bad as men. There's oh God, I can't think of his name. Oh well. There's a guy on YouTube that actually did a whole video where he showed all of the studies about the domestic violence issue and compared men and women together. It's a very enlightening thing, and I can't remember his name for the life of me, but he's a bald white guy. I don't agree with everything he says, but he does when he does videos like that, they're usually pretty good. Okay, and I think we're on our second to last one. I realized that they were not really interested in the rights of all women and that they only cared about women that fell within certain political and ideological framework. I saw that they had no focus on anything that would legitimately help women. So they speak for all women who agree with them. And if a woman doesn't agree with them, then those women are actually just men and sock puppets who have internalized misogyny. That's like the feminist response to everything. They don't want to help women because to help women means that they lose the privilege they have as being victims. Okay, so the last one, it's also a little bit long. I eventually became disillusioned with the movement after one too many arguments against radical feminists and the growing realization that a lot of them, even the moderates, endorse vigilante justice. I'm a major proponent of due process, and a lot of these people I have met and conversed with firmly believe that the rights of men should be stripped on the basis of mere accusation. And we see that. Oh my God, do we see that men lose everything? Men can be kicked out of college on the mere accusation of being a rapist, even when police find that he couldn't have done it. His life is still destroyed. And that has happened in the past. We don't hear about it too much anymore, thankfully. That Well, no, hold on. Generally, if the police clear a person, the colleges lately have been a little bit more careful. And I think it's because a lot of men are starting to sue the school that expelled them, even though evidence was in their favor. And I think schools are getting a little bit smarter about that now. But that was only a fairly recent thing. But within the last 5 years, there have been a lot of men who've been accused of rape who have been expelled from school on just that basis alone. Whether they committed it or not doesn't matter. They've had their right to due process stripped away. It's a very scary world. This, coupled with the snowballing destruction of call-out culture and false claims of rape and domestic violence, as well as the almost universal belief that women cannot be perpetrators and men not the victims, affirm to me that feminism does not have any interest in gender equality, instead using its former virtues as a weapon to silence and belittle true victims, men and women. Beyond that, I find their fixation on censorship of popular fiction completely asinine and disrespectful of women's suffrage, and many of the statements derive from blatant falsehoods. That is not to say that feminism at its heart is not a force for good, but that its goals have been perverted by extremists to the extent where I cannot respect any of those who fall under that label. Since 2012, I've identified as an egalitarian. Feminists. Now, you might tell me, well, what these women experience are a vast minority. And I didn't read every single one of these statements. But there's a lot more there. I just picked the most poignant ones. I don't even agree with all of the points that these women have brought up, but I do agree that feminism is a very toxic thing. You come on to women against feminism and you make a snide remark, I don't even know why this tag exists. Oh, you just women don't know anything at all. You're uneducated. You're really men. You're sock puppets. You have internalized misogyny. You want to know why women are against feminists? Do you want to know why anyone is against feminism? It's not because we hate women. I mean, if you can't even say that about me because I work with women on a daily basis. I work with some of the finest people ever. The honey badgers, for instance, that is predominantly run by females, a female group that believe in male rights. But this isn't about me. This is about why women have a hashtag women against feminism. This is why. Anyone watching this video, what I want you to do, anytime you see some feminist that says, why does this hashtag exist? Why are women against equal rights for women? Why do women want to be raped? Show them this video. I urge you, show them this video because this explains why. This explains why women make the decision that they do, that they're against feminism. And feminists, if you think that what these women have gone through is wrong, well, you'd be right, first and foremost. But secondly, shaming these women and not being feminist is not the way to get them on your side. You can't shame someone into something that they know to be wrong. If you think that what happened to these women are wrong, then what you need to do is you need to go fix your own fucking movement before you dare show your face to anywhere in public and try to criticize people for not following your fucking ideology. Fix your movement first. Simple as that. Fix your movement first. If you think it's wrong what these people have gone through, that the things that they describe is so against what you think feminism is, then you need to speak out against the feminist that is ruining it for everyone else. And only then can you even suggest that anyone else become a feminist again. Fix your movement, and I might take you more seriously. Fight against your movement. I might take you more seriously. I take Christina Hoff Sommers very seriously. I don't agree with everything she says. I don't, but I don't have to. I have a high amount of respect for her because she's willing to go against her own movement for the bad trash that it has in it. And she's willing to call it out and say, this is not feminism, and I'm going to fight against it. And I'm going to work with the people that are being oppressed out there, both men and women. I can respect a feminist just fine. I can't respect you feminists that choose to ignore your own movement. Oh, yeah, I did see that video. Egalitarian is a men's right project. The male feminist was the one who said that. Feminism is a human rights movement, and egalitarian is a men's rights project. Oh, man, I wanted to strangle that little dickwad. No, egalitarian is what we should all be. In all honesty. But, you know, I accept that if people want to be feminism, if they want to put their efforts into helping women, I accept people if they want to be an MRA and put their efforts into helping men. I have no problem with that. But honestly, I think we should all strive to be egalitarian. That's my personal viewpoint. And if not egalitarian, then a humanist. Anyways, like I said, if if you see any feminists out there trying to guilt shame another woman into why they're not a feminist and they don't understand it, show them this video. Link them to this video. Anyways, I thank everyone in the chat room. I had a great time. I'm probably going to do one more video after this for the night, for the week. So just keep a watch out for that. And sorry, I just got distracted by Cyril FM. Kirby said that what I said was powerful, and Cyril FM's like, not as powerful as your sucking is, Kirby. I don't know. I'm a little insulted by that. I thought my speech was powerful, but more powerful than Kirby's sucking. That's just me. Anyways, that does it for me. This is Mad Cat signing off.